Have you ever paused while writing an English sentence because you were not sure what to use, who, which or that? If so, I can help you. These three words confuse English learners all around the world. The good news is that once you understand one simple idea, choosing the right word becomes much easier. In this video, I will explain what relative clauses are, when to use who, which and that, and a few important rules that will help you sound more natural in English. So let's start. A relative clause is a part of a sentence that gives us more information about a person or a thing. Instead of starting a new sentence, we connect the extra information to the noun. For example, the woman who lives next door is a doctor. The main idea is the woman is a doctor. The words who lives next door simply tell us which woman we are talking about. That's exactly what a relative clause does. It adds information that makes the sentence clearer. Now let's look at the first relative pronoun, who. We use who when we are talking about people. For example, the teacher who inspired me retired last year. The man who fixed my car did an excellent job. She is the student who always asks interesting questions. In every example, who refers to a person. Next, we have which. We use which for animals and things. For example, the book which I am reading is fascinating. The laptop which I bought last month is incredibly fast. The museum which we visited was over 200 years old. Here, which refers to objects or places, not people. Now let's talk about that. This is probably the most flexible of the three. In many situations, that can replace both who and which, especially in everyday English. For example, instead of saying the woman who called yesterday, you can also say the woman that called yesterday. Instead of the book which changed my life, you can say the book that changed my life. Sounds very simple and effective. Native speakers use that very often because it sounds natural and conversational. However, there is an important rule you need to remember. There are two kinds of relative clauses, defining and non-defining. A defining relative clause gives essential information. Without it, the meaning of the sentence changes. For example, the students who studied passed the exam. Here, clause who studied tells us exactly which student passed. It's necessary information. In defining clauses using who, which or that is often possible depending on what you're talking about. And non-defining relative clause offers us information that is not really necessary for understanding. For example, my brother who lives in Australia is visiting next month. The words who lives in Australia simply add extra information. We already know which brother we are talking about. And notice the commas. Those commas are very important because they tell the reader that information is additional, not essential. And this brings us to one of the most common grammar mistakes. Never use that in a non-defining relative clause. For example, my car, which is 10 years old, still runs perfectly. This sentence is correct. But saying my car that is 10 years old still runs perfectly is incorrect. Whenever you see commas introducing a relative clause, choose who for people or which for things. Do not use that. Let's quickly summarize everything. Use who for people. Use which for things and animals. Use that for people or things in most defining relative clauses. And remember the golden rule. In the relative clause if the relative clause is separated by commas, never use that. Relative clauses might seem complicated at first, but they are simply a way to connect ideas and avoid repeating information. Once you start noticing them in books, articles, and everyday conversations, you will realize how often they are used. The more you read and listen to English, the more natural these structures will become. Before long, you will be using who, which, and that without even thinking about the rules. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next English lessons.